Good morning, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Councilman Nowakowski, who is actually the chair of this committee, is on the phone. He has the privilege of being over awaiting jury duty. So I will proceed. What I'm going to do is do the consent and then the action item and move the chief presiding judge, number 12, to December's agenda. So having said that, next item is the minutes of October 15th. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Do I have a motion?
Do you have a motion to approve the minutes for October 15th?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Call to the public. Do we have any cards? We have anyone in the audience? Hearing no one speak, and we have no cards, we will move on to items 4 through 10, which are for consent. Presentations are not planned. Does anyone have any questions? Do I have a motion?
So move items 4 through 10.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion for 4 through 10 for approval and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We will go to item 16, which is the request authorization to deviate from full cost recovery of user fees charged for marked police vehicles used in an off-duty work assignment. That's a mouthful, Chief.
It is a mouthful. Public Safety Committee, this is a proposal to change the fee structure for our off-duty vehicle use for our expanded neighborhood patrol, our off-duty employment of officers specific to neighborhoods or areas that want to employ off-duty officers off-duty. There's a vehicle that can be purchased or at least rented from that capacity. So with that, I'm going to ask Chief Markley to go over that for you.
Good morning. Sorry, technical difficulties. Just a brief description of our program. Good morning. Right now, the police department allows for the rental of police vehicles, motorcycles, and cars to be used for off-duty employment. For instance, if a neighborhood association would like to hire an off-duty officer and then have a vehicle go along with it for patrol, they can do that. The current rate that we use right now is $7 an hour for the rental and 95 cents a mile. That is those dollar amounts are figured out by the audit department. Every year, each department within the city turns in information to the audit department in January, and from that, they come up with an analysis and give recommendations to BNR on what we should charge for vehicle rentals or any use of city equipment for the year. Those figures are then given to the council in March, and they're approved for implementation in July. Like I said, our current rate right now is $7 an hour and 95 cents a mile. What we're proposing is to reduce that charge to a fixed rate. And the reason why we want to do that is we believe that there's a mutual benefit to both the public and to the police department when they hire officers to work off-duty and then have a patrol car along with it. In other words, if, for instance, I'm working an off-duty job in a neighborhood and I have a vehicle, all calls for service within that area that I'm working, I will respond to. So that means a regular police officer will not have to respond to that call. So there's a mutual benefit for both the police department and for the neighborhood that hires a police officer. So what we're recommending is an alternative user fee, which would be $1.25 a mile, and that is just to recover direct costs only for the use of the vehicle. And then Mr. Barton here is with me. He did a little legwork to tell you some specifics as to how we came up with those figures.
Good morning, members of the subcommittee. What I did is, again, when you look at a full cost recovery model that's set up by the city auditor department, they look at the direct cost as well as those indirect. The indirect are like the supervisors and all of the other things that go into running that program. When I looked at the model, having been an auditor in the past, I looked at it and said, well, there is a mutual benefit between the city and the entities that are acquiring or utilizing these off-duty officers. So I simply set up a model to analyze what the direct costs are. The direct costs are being those of the maintenance of the vehicle, the fuel usage of the vehicle, as well as the cost associated with the radio in the car, the MDC in the car. And so I looked at that and how would that be best divided up amongst those that use it. So that's how you come to now this new model that's being proposed. It can be set up any number of different ways. I looked at it from the standpoint of trying to figure out what made the most sense to the police department as well as to the neighborhood groups that are utilizing the off-duty officer.
Do you have questions? Councilwoman?
I have questions. So we're going from $7 per hour to now $1.25 per mile. So when they leave, when they get the vehicle, are we starting to charge as soon as they drive the vehicle off the lot, and then it's $1.25 per mile?
That's correct. It would be $1.25 per mile from when they pick up the vehicle to, for instance, if you used it at a neighborhood association, you're driving around for whatever number of hours, that mileage counts, plus the mileage back to the police facility.
Okay.
The other thing that we're doing, Councilwoman, to not impact operations, we're requesting that PD utilize surplus vehicles to do this program rather than take away from operations. That way, there will be no impact on direct operations for the frontline officers out on the street. We'll be utilizing surplus vehicles, and every year we'll rotate those surplus vehicles and sell off the older ones and bring in new surplus vehicles every year so that the city does still get money for the vehicles that we intended to sell off. So there would be no impairment to the city's revenue other than going from the $7 to the now $1 and something rate per hour.
And Councilman, just to add, I think Jeff just explained it very well in relations to availability of vehicles. Of course, this is not going to be our regular patrol fleet. It's going to be cars that are in surplus. This will give us a higher visibility presence in and around the city of Phoenix. As you know, because we're down on staffing, the one aspect that I think would be beneficial to this city is to have a higher visibility presence in our neighborhoods, and this certainly allows for that to happen.
And just to close the loop, because you asked the question about the mileage, we currently charge the 95 cents a mile, and that starts from when you leave the facility to whatever usage you have during the shift and then back to the facility again.
What is the revenue from the program right now, and what do you project it will be?
Got it right here?
Councilwoman, last year, we collected about $135,000 under the program. With this shift, we'll be collecting about $40,000 less than that, between $40,000 and $45,000 less.
And so I think we all are very motivated to have more officers on the street, but you judge this is probably a better.
Yes, ma'am, and I understand there's a cost lost on this for us, but once again, the high visibility presence, it may be that in 4 or 5 years, we need to revisit this once our staffing gets back up to where it should be. I think at that point, I think it'd be good to bring this back to council.
I'm curious, how many do we put out? I mean, how many
Associations.
officers, how many rent a police officer for their neighborhood?
I can give you an approximate, the list I'm looking at right now, we have approximately 20 over the past year that have asked for vehicles on a recurring basis, not just a one-time basis, but on a recurring basis to work off-duty within their associations or neighborhoods.
My other question was on the budget, and it sounds like minimal.
Yes, again,
impact on
it
your
will
budget.
have an impact on it, but I do believe what we'll be getting out of this is a higher visibility presence for our city in relation to people seeing officers. And again, as Chief Markley said, these officers will answer calls in those neighborhoods as well.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilman Nowakowski, did you have any questions?
No questions at all.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I think Councilwoman Gagg will ask if we could hear number 13 next. We're really taking things out of order here today, Chief. But she has to leave
Thank you,
early.
Chief.
So we will do the Phoenix Police Recruitment Plan.
First off, Public Safety Committee, Council, I want to thank the Mayor and Council for their help in moving the Phoenix Police Department forward in not only our recruiting now, but our hiring process that's going to take place as we move into 2015. I think it's it's a great motivational place to be for our department, to open the doors to start hiring again officers. The hiring plan that we have in place is to hire 300 officers, 100 for the next 3 years. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Lopez, who will kind of guide us to some of the principles that we're looking at as we move forward on this issue.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I'm Lieutenant Tony Lopez. I'm the Operations Lieutenant for the Personnel and Employee Development Bureau. There is an 8-step process that all applicants will undergo before we can decide whether they are quality enough to hire to start the police academy. The CCR has a summary of that, and I can break that down if you'd like. I can tell you that working backwards from our March or April 2015 start date, we scheduled a series of 4 tests to test for police recruit. A week ago, we completed our 3rd in a series of 4 tests. I can tell you that there's healthy interest in the community in testing for police recruit, and I'm very confident that we're going to be able to select a very high-grade individual to begin the police academy when we are given permission to do that in March or April. And if you have any questions about that or the recruiting plan, I'll be very glad to go into detail for that.
Can we, if you will, let's just cover some of the diversity issues in
Please do.
person recruiting.
Or,
Kind of go
because
talk
people
about
who are watching have no idea what's in this
Yeah, let's do
report,
that.
so we need to cover at least
Do
minimum.
the 8 points and then go into the recruiting issue.
Very good. Well, the process starts by applying online. You can do this on phoenix.gov website. That gets you into taking one of the police tests. You have to pass the police test before you're invited to take the physical agility assessment. And after that, you'll be given a background packet. Once that's turned in, you'll get an interview with a background investigator if you meet the pre-qualifiers. And you'll sit down with one of our background investigators for usually a couple, 2 or 3 hours to get into your background and determine whether you are certifiable by the state standards and whether you're a high-quality individual. After that, that information will be backed up with a polygraph exam. And then later on, if you're still in the process, we will make the extra effort and send you for a medical evaluation and a psychological exam. The process concludes with a controlled substance screening, and it takes roughly 3 months to carry out this process. Insofar as recruiting is concerned, I can tell you that we like to spend a lot of time on the local college campuses. The police academy is as much an academic experience as it is a physical fitness test, and applicants who demonstrate the capacity to complete school and to get good grades and that follow-through that's associated with that tells me something about their ability to complete the academic portion of the academy, which for some it's very challenging. And so we like to attend job fairs at our local colleges and universities, as well as we schedule orientations for the students so that we can, and from the community to meet at the school to talk about the 8-step hiring process that I explained to you earlier. Additionally, this year we just finished visiting with all the advisory groups as well as the Fall Summit. And so we try to reach the community not only at the colleges and universities, but to encourage participation from all members of our labor pool to come in and test for police recruit.
How many applied?
When we announced that we were opening the links to register for testing back in August, 1,300 people applied within 36 hours. We had to shut the website down, and that made up of the 4 tests. We are more than halfway through that. And like I said, we're getting some really high-quality people, and I'm really looking forward to getting that green light to select that first group to start next year.
And Councilman, if I might just add, the recruitment aspect and the diversity that goes along with that is very important for our department and our city. We must have a representation of our officers that are reflective of our community, everyone in the community. And some of the things that we've used, are doing now that may be different from, again, we're using social media to advertise recruitments. We're being very creative, creating recruiting manuals and materials that are reflective of a diverse community. We want to partner up, and we had a summit on October 30th with all our community advisory groups, all of them. And we presented the recruiting plan. We actually showed a video of what the recruits would go through. We wanted everybody to help us open those doors for our community. We're participating in job fairs and minority recruiting events all over the city. We're hosting regular orientation meetings throughout the city on our recruiting plan. We're conducting surveys also to determine how applicants are best reached and adjusting advertisement and recruiting efforts, as I said earlier. And we're establishing, as the lieutenant said, relationships with our local colleges and high schools to make sure that, once again, we open the doors to the diversity that our city wants to move forward with.
Questions?
Could you tell us about some of the things your advisory groups did to help us recruit?
A couple of issues that we're doing is we want to advertise in La Prensa, also Hispanic newspaper, the African American newspaper edition. It escapes me the name of it.
Arizona Informant?
Yeah, I think so, yes. But we're looking at different avenues to advertise our hiring. And we also want to advertise in English and Spanish. And some people would say, well, you have to speak English to be an officer. That's correct. But sometimes family members are our best avenue to recruit young people coming in. So I think it's very important for us to show that diversity and show that openness that the City of Phoenix always does when we advertise for hiring.
Wonderful.
Any other questions?
Are we doing any events to reach women?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, recruiting women is an important component of the recruiting plan. I can tell you that finding women that are that can survive the physical agility testing is one of our challenges. And historically, we've set up recruiting booths at running events such as marathons, Phoenix 10K, Rock and Roll Marathon, and things like that, and to encourage women that are athletes to take the physical agility assessment.
Did we do any of those? You said historically, did we do any of those as part of this event, since it was such
You
a
know,
quick window?
It's been a quick window, yes. You know, we just brought the recruiting team back on board a couple of months ago when we knew the plan that we had before us, and many of the running events weren't occurring in summer, but there are some coming up in the new year, and we'd like to attend those because what we expect is we're going to be offering additional testing in 2015, and so we want to plan to invite people to prepare for those tests in advance. So being at those running events, for example, in January, for example, might get them prepared to take the test in April or May when we resume testing.
And Councilman Gallo, just one other thing that I'd like to bring to your attention that wasn't well publicized, but the Phoenix Police Department, along with the Mesa Police Department, along with the Arizona Post, last week hosted Leadership and Female Executives.
Wonderful.
And it was attended by about 25 female middle managers, and it was a program that is from Sam Houston State University in Texas. I'm an alumni of that school. But that program focuses on leadership development for female police officers, and we co-hosted it with Mesa, and we're going to continue to co-host that conference because we're trying to, again, really emphasize the leadership aspect that's open to everyone.
And the report mentioned minority recruitment events. Could you tell us some of the ones you did before this process?
The season occurred fast, so once we got recruiting online, I can't recall of a minority event that was specifically themed. We'll be looking for opportunities, and part of what we did at the advisory groups is we were opening up that line of communication. If they're having events in their community that have a special theme that we feel would benefit the police department, then we offered information to contact our recruiters so that we could attend those events, have a recruiting table, and have pamphlets and brochures available for anybody who might be interested in taking that process.
Did the advisory groups recommend any specific events for you to attend?
Not that I can recall off my memory, no.
Councilman, I will tell you that the October 30th summit, I think, was really important for us because we had about 150, almost 200 people there from different segments of our community. And it was, I asked that this be part of the agenda because I want them to understand that the best avenue we have for recruitment is our community. And our recruitment efforts have really changed for law enforcement across the United States. They're much more easier to do now because of the social media aspect of that's available to us. For an organization that wasn't hiring for 5 years, for us to open those doors and actually see how easy it is to recruit in various segments of the community simply by videos and YouTubes and messaging that we do constantly, the Channel 11 segments that we do with each of your council members. It's a great opportunity to get this word out. You don't have to pay for social advertising and recruitment anymore as much as you used to. So it's just, for us, I think the biggest issue is to be creative and get out there and use whatever social media is available to us to recruit what we want for the city, and that's a clear reflection of who we are as a city and a police department.
I stand corrected. In a review of my October recap for my recruiting team, we did attend on October 11th, the Native American Recognition Days Parade Festival, and again on October 19th, the Arab American Festival. So these look like examples that came through the advisory board connections, and we'll continue to look for opportunities like this as we move forward.
Wonderful, thank you.
Council member?
Oh. Councilman Kowski, go ahead.
Alrighty. Chief, I just want to really thank you for all your efforts in reaching out. You know, after 5 years not having police officers and trying to recruit officers, it seems pretty easy. People are actually coming to us saying, how can we become a police officer? I think it's the reputation and the integrity that we have as the city of Phoenix and our PD that people want to be a part of this team. But saying that also, during those 5 years, we really used reserve officers. And those reserve officers that went through that process, can you talk to me about the reserve officers and how we're using them also as a recruiting tool?
Yeah, the reserve program will continue. One of the things that I'm trying to propose and move forward now for recruitment of reserve officers, what we were getting in the reserve officers as far as applicants applying was really the 20 to 22-year-olds that were looking for a foot in the door. And we welcome that. But that recruitment effort is going to change now. Now that we're hiring, we're going to see less 20 and 22-year-old reserve officers trying to get that foothold in the door. What we're going to see is them applying to be regular police officers, career officers. So we have to be more creative in relation to our reserve unit. One of the things that I'd like to do is allow our officers who are retiring an opportunity to join the reserves up to 1 year after they've announced their retirement. I want to extend that time period. Right now, I believe it's 60 days or 90 days, but I want to extend it to 1 year. And let's face it, sometimes people, for whatever reason, decide that they want to retire and do absolutely nothing, and then 6 months down the road, they go, wow, I really miss the law enforcement aspect of what we do. And it's very understandable. I've heard it so many times in my career where people retire and they miss the law enforcement family. So I want to open that up to 1 year, and I'm going to work with Arizona Post to do that. And continue to recruit for our reserve unit. It plays a tremendous role for us, and it was very, very helpful for us in the last 5 years where we weren't hiring to at least put reserve officers out there who not only benefited our organization but actually benefited other areas. There was a number of reserve officers that became reserve officers with us and then wind up going to other law enforcement agencies. I see that as a win-win still, because the fact is we were producing police officers and we're still keeping fresh in our training aspect of what we do.
Do you have any further?
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Councilwoman Pastor?
I'm fine.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that you are recruiting for reserve officers. I know that we have many discussions about that lately. Do you
Absolutely.
contact other police agencies where the officers are retiring?
That's a good point. I tell you what I'm of course very open to is doing just that. You know, the fact is that it's nice to get a card 6 months down after you have retired, giving you an open invitation to come see us. And I think that's a process that we need to take advantage of much stronger. Again, allowing that time period to hire someone as a reserve period from 90 days to 1 year, I think will open that avenue for us. And again, we're going to have to be creative in the reserve unit to continue that process of getting people in. We won't see those 20 and 22-year-olds anymore. We're going to start seeing people that are in their late in life, I guess, so to speak, middle life, 35, 40, who have a career already but want a second career because they want to go out there and serve. So we have to be creative with that opportunity.
And what does it take to change that?
Again, it's just
Internal policy? I mean,
the Arizona Post is who I have to work with. The Arizona Post, I want them to allow us the opportunity to keep that officer at least on officer status, not change them to retired completely. It may be a process where if we can get the officer to simply agree to be on paper a reserve officer and allow us to carry him for a year until he has to make that final decision a year from now. We're hoping that the Arizona Post will help us with that issue.
thank you. Any further questions? No. Hearing none, we thank you very much for the presentation and look forward to hearing back if you get that changed. We'll go back to our regular public service announcement. Take it, lock it, conceal it.
Councilman, this is a public service announcement that we're working on in relation to getting the word out in relations to burglary of a motor vehicle, cars being broken into because people are not securing their keys when they go to, let's say, a mall or something. They leave the keys in the car and car gets stolen or property gets stolen because they didn't lock the car. It's a way to get the information out with a little TLC, and that's take it, lock it, and conceal it. So with that a little bit further, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Martins.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the models that we have in the Phoenix Police Department is we'd rather prevent a crime than solve a crime. So with that being said, TLC really is about getting information out through various means, whether it be through social media. Our goal is to partner with a variety of different malls in our city where they can post some of this information out in parking lots. Again, putting information, we think information is power. And so a lot of the things that we have seen when it comes to burglary from vehicles or stolen vehicles is individuals who leave property in their vehicle. A suspect walks by and they take advantage of those types of opportunities. So if we could prevent that and educate the community about leaving their items of value in their vehicle, locking their vehicle, concealing that property, we think we can reduce burglary from vehicles, stolen vehicles, that type of property crime in areas where a lot of vehicles are being parked.
So what is your campaign that you're doing? How are you doing it, I guess
Well,
is my question.
our hope is at this point to send it out through social media, whether it be nextdoor.com, whether it be through Twitter or Facebook. In addition, we have, especially during the holidays, we hope to roll this out through the holiday season. Invariably, mainstream media will want to have some of that information about crime prevention tips during the holiday shopping season, et cetera. So using them as well as an avenue to get information out, we think is ideal. And again, partnering with some of the private organizations, the malls, their security to post some of this information out in their parking lots, we think is how we will be successful in getting that information out.
Councilman Ross, just to tell you that there's a number of cities that do this by city ordinance, and it's based on the number of parking spaces you have available. And once you hit a certain threshold, there's an ordinance that says you must put this sign up. Property crime is probably about 80 to 85% of our overall crime. There's been many cities who have taken this to an ordinance standpoint. Again, based on a number of parking spaces available, it's incumbent on the owner to post a sign up as a reminder to citizens. And they've seen some incredible crime reductions in relation to burglary of motor vehicle and theft.
Councilor Gallego?
Was very excited to see you're also looking at our parks, because as the season
Absolutely.
for hiking and wonderful weather begins,
Correct.
we do hear from more people in my area about South Mountain Park, but I imagine parks throughout the city that they left their bags sitting on the
Exactly.
seat of their car, and
Absolutely.
so anything we can do to partner with parks, I think is a great idea. Thank you.
But I do believe it has a future, depending on what we see the first couple of years, and possibly doing an ordinance that stresses that issue. Based on number of spaces available, you must post this on your parking lots.
Any other questions, comments?
Are you meeting with property owners currently, or how are you meeting and getting the word out in the sense of, I would hope that they would volunteer to put it up,
I agree.
and us have a good partnership so that we wouldn't have to do an ordinance. But if we, I just think it's good neighbors, a good way of let's pilot this, let's try it, let's see where it works, where it doesn't work, and where the pushback is. I can't see any property owner that has a number of spaces not wanting to do it in a more preventative manner and being proactive. So how are we meeting with the property owners?
We have an established relationship with a number of different security personnel at different malls. We want to target at this point the malls. Obviously, there's a lot more parking areas at these centers. We have a good working relationship with them. Some of the ownerships, the organizations that own those malls, we have a good working relationship. We have reached out to them. They're always very want to be partners with the police department on how to prevent these kind of crimes. So we believe that we will be able to have them voluntarily promote this for us. And in fact, with Parks and Rec, we are working with them to create a sign that we can post, again, at some of these hiking trails. And then as far as the malls go, some of those relationships, we'll use them so that they can post these signs at these locations.
Now, when you say posting, I'm thinking, and this is where my mind went, I'm thinking, okay, there's a parking structure area. Are we looking at the light poles? Are we looking, okay.
In fact, that would be ideal. In fact, obviously with the lights, if you see some of the other lights, or excuse me, signs, such as handicap signs or whatever other signs you might see out in parking lots, we would use this type of sign, again, on a light pole, something of that effect, where it's, again, visible to the community.
Or even as you're coming into a parking garage, if it's
Yeah.
posted in the very front, take a look.
On the-
TLC, it's very easy to remember, and Councilmember, you're right, that was the direction of the PSA first. Let's see what we can get in relation to voluntary compliance. Voluntary compliance is always the best thing.
And I'm thinking also, you know how they do those advertisements in the elevators? So all that area,
When
when we're in there reading or staring at each other.
absolutely, we thought, again, water billing, sending out information that way on the telephone hold.
Perfect, thank you.
Have you tried the movie theaters?
We have not discussed that quite yet, Councilwoman, but certainly as we expand and try to grow this program, our initial thought, at least to roll this out during this season, is to get as quickly as possible to the malls, hiking trails, as, again, the shopping season, holiday season is upon us. So.
You know, Councilman, we've all been to parking lots where you see the sign that says, patrons park at their own risk here, management is not responsible for parking here. Well, this would be a much better sign to have.
Who's paying for the signs?
Well, we hope, again, for some of these businesses to voluntarily comply. So, again, reaching out to some of these malls, we believe, with the partnerships that we have already, that they will purchase these signs. We are designing it through Parks and Rec, but they would voluntarily purchase these signs.
And if they don't?
But again,
Again, it's a voluntary thing right now.
We have an ordinance.
But, I mean, would you put them up if they won't pay for them?
Our hope right now is that that's our goal. The other thing is to put, as far as getting word or information out, is through social media. And again, is now this holiday season is upon us, is go through mainstream media about, again, the biggest thing is putting out TLC, getting that information out about taking it, locking it, or concealing it.
And again, Councilmember, I mean, parking areas that certainly belong to the city of Phoenix, certainly those would be easy to post, I would think. Parking,
hope.
yeah, and parking lots that belong to private entities, we wouldn't post unless they allowed us to, just from a legal perspective.
What would be the cost to purchase a sign?
We are looking into the size at this point, but we have, I think, an estimate, if you will, anywhere between $40 to $70 per sign.
That could be expensive for a large mall.
It could, yes, ma'am, it could.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You know, during the holiday season, we really pushed the slogan "Shop Phoenix." I was just wondering if we can mix both slogans together, maybe "Shop Phoenix" with TLC or something like that, and use both messages during the holiday season.
They're all shaking their heads in agreement.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Alrighty.
Or when shopping Phoenix, we have TLC,
There you
That's
go,
right.
thank you.
We like it.
something.
Good idea. Well, if there's no further comments or questions, thank you very much for the presentation, and let us know how it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to number 14, the compassion clubs. This is one I don't have much compassion about.
Excuse me. Council, this is an update on our enforcement in relation to compassion clubs, which are illegal, and our enforcement efforts is something that we're targeting. Councilmember Gallego had asked for an update on this issue, and with me is Lieutenant Darren Viner, who will update us on this issue.
Can you explain what a compassion club is? Please.
Absolutely, ma'am. Excuse me. Well, the question that I'm here to address is whether or not there's a need for legislation to govern or regulate compassion clubs, and the short answer to that is no. Compassion clubs were an idea of medical marijuana cardholders to come together as a collective group in order to share or transfer marijuana from one patient to another. That is legal under the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act. However, you cannot trade or receive anything of value for that marijuana, and that's where the problem lies. 100% of the investigations that we've looked into have shown that these places are illegal. They have worked schemes to try to undermine the law by outwardly selling marijuana. Now, they do that under a number of different business models, some of which are charging membership fees, some are a donation, some are fraudulent services that they provide that don't actually exist. But the common thing in all those schemes is that they are charging the exact street value for the amount of marijuana that's provided to the patient. So in other words, they're selling marijuana. These things have evolved into what we're seeing now is basically two different business models, one of which is just an outright dispensary. They are set up like a legal marijuana dispensary. They have a board where they post prices. They have the strains of marijuana out on the counter for patients to see, and they sell it. They do check medical marijuana cards at the door, just like a legal dispensary would do. The only problem is they're not registered or licensed by the Department of Health Services. The other business model that we have now seen is the farmers market. Now, the farmers markets are kind of like a swap meet for marijuana. Basically, you have a number of vendors who will rent a table all under the same roof from a coordinator, and they all come together and they have a free-for-all and sell marijuana. Again, they check medical marijuana cards at the door under the guise of being legitimate, but they're not. A good example of that is an investigation my unit just concluded. It was about 6 months long. We had undercover detectives go into a farmer's market. It was actually in Councilwoman Gallego's district, the VFW Farmers Market. Very successful operation. We purchased marijuana from a number of different vendors, 6 in total. We also purchased marijuana from them both on-site and off-site at their place of residence. As a result of that, we were able to serve 6 different search warrants on those people. We arrested all 6. We were able to seize 158 pounds of marijuana, 330 marijuana plants. We seized $100,000 in cash, 11 guns, 4 vehicles, and 1 ballistic vest. So there was a lot of contraband associated with these warrants. Very successful investigation. In addition to that, we were able to identify the person who coordinated that business. And we were able to serve a warrant on that person's residence as well and seize the bank accounts of that person because they were, in those bank accounts were the fruits of that illegal business. And we have since received an indictment for operating an illegal enterprise on that person. So we're at the conclusion of that investigation, yet they continue. And we continue to work hard to try to keep those businesses out of business. And with that, we have recently partnered with the Department of Health Services in combating this issue. We are trying to ensure that the only medical marijuana dispensaries are those that are legal and have been certified by the Department of Health Services as voted upon by the people of the state of Arizona and governed by the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act. So just to recap, anyone who is selling marijuana out there that is outside of the protection of the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act is subject to the laws found in Arizona Revised Statute Title 13, Chapter 34, and can be prosecuted as such.
You have a question?
I'm just curious because of the law. So a caregiver is permitted to have no more than 5 patients.
That's correct.
And then within those 14 days, they're only allowed to have 2.5 ounces.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just thinking how you manage with it. You would know a legitimate establishment versus a non-legitimate establishment just by the flow of the 5 patients. Because
Yes.
if they're only supposed to have 5 patients and more than 5 patients are there within the 14 days,
That's correct.
I would assume at that moment it's an illegitimate
That's-
establishment.
That is correct. And even the caregivers are starting to go away because there was a certain period of time that where if there was not a legal dispensary within 25 miles of your residence, then you were able to be a caregiver or receive your marijuana from a caregiver. However, we have a total of 13, I think we may be going on 14 now for the city of Phoenix, which is the total that we can have for the city. So that negates, you know, the ability for anybody to be outside of that 25-mile zone. So the caregiver cards are no longer being issued to people because there are so many dispensaries present now.
Okay.
And Councilman, just to make note of this issue, a number of these compassion come to our attention from the legal dispensaries.
Oh, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
That's into their profit.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious, though, knowing that we still have them scattered throughout the city, and they are still in operation and making big bucks, why wouldn't we want to go to the legislature and tweak the law
In what regard, ma'am?
to put them out of business, to somehow put something?
You're talking about just for compassion clubs?
Yeah.
Because by the law, the way it's written, they're already illegal. Some piece of it, if I'm correct, is already there. We feel it's already there. We just feel it's already there based on what's written by the law, on what you have to have for a legal dispensary.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Just to add on to that a little bit, if you look at it this way, a compassion club or somebody who's operating in the way that I just described outside of the law of the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, they're just like a drug dealer who's on a street corner selling drugs. They're just doing it in an organized fashion under a roof of a business somewhere. So they are subject to our revised statutes in Title 13 as far as being prosecuted. So there's really no need for any additional legislation to deal with them because they are, in fact, operating illegally.
So I take it you are continuing to investigate the other compassion clubs?
Absolutely.
I know that are out there?
Yes, we have several investigations underway right now.
We have our hands full.
Councilman Nowakowski, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Is Councilwoman Gallego on the phone?
No questions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the good work, because
You're welcome.
great job. We will go to Center for Police Leadership.
Councilor, we're very excited about this program. We talked earlier about leadership for female executives. The future of the Phoenix Police Department is in the future of our molding our employees in 3 areas: job enrichment, job satisfaction, or promotion. We need leadership at every level of the organization, from the officer level all the way up to the chief level. We believe that in partnering up with the Arizona State University, we have a program that's really make the Phoenix Police Department the center point of leadership development for the United States of America. Really do.
Okay, tell us about what the university is going to do.
Yeah, good morning. There's a couple different avenues that we're taking in this partnership with ASU. It's really our talent acceleration program. And so getting back to the 3 strategic focus points that Chief Garcia talks about: job enrichment, career advancement, promotion. But it's really also meant to be a succession plan for the Phoenix Police Department due to known attrition or even unanticipated attrition. And additionally, when we originally started this dialogue with the Phoenix Police, with the Arizona State University, we wanted to be inclusive of all statewide jurisdictions. And so the evolution of this has gone from Phoenix Police Center for Leadership now to a statewide coalition. And so what we want to do in the near term is we want to bring law enforcement police chiefs throughout Arizona into Phoenix for a dialogue to talk about, hey, where is the future of policing going? And how do we need to prepare the future leaders to take our positions? And so it's really going to be in the short term a gap analysis to say, hey, where are we as an industry? Where are we as a profession? And how do we create that next generation of leaders? And so ASU role in this will be for evidence-based policing. You know, we all talk about community-based policing, problem-oriented policing, constitutional policing, and this is really our opportunity to partner stronger with ASU. And so when we do a program, when we do a publication, it'll also have that independent, objective review that ASU can provide us. And it's similar to what we're doing with the Smart Policing Initiative, the on-body cameras, where we've been with home invasion and hike. And so it's a neutral third party that can tell us, hey, how are our policing efforts doing? And we hope to get Phoenix published more often, talk about, hey, what are some of the innovative things that we are doing, not only just with Phoenix, but from a statewide law enforcement aspect.
Will it be mandatory for officers before they can be promoted to go through this leadership?
And so what we're looking at is developing an opportunity of classes to select career opportunities, promotional opportunities, minimum degree requirements. And so we're really looking at the whole career ladder for us. And so instead of taking a haphazard approach to say, hey, officers have a selection of classes they can go to, what we want to do is streamline that. We have more oversight as far as if they want to go to a tactical class. It's going to be one that's going to be governed by us and sanctioned by us. If they want to go to any type of different educational classes, we're hoping that it's not just a partnership with ASU, but we can guide the career development, the job enrichment of these officers. And so instead of letting it happen organically, we want to have more direction on, hey, these are the topics we think that are important for law enforcement leaders to have in the future.
And I think a better way to answer that question, Councilmember, is that mandatory checkoff to get promoted isn't the direction we're going. I feel very strongly that the Phoenix Police Department has a responsibility to put a number of classes in front of people that we know will benefit not only the individual but the organization. And for us to be able to provide that leadership development in different topics is part of what we do, and it's really part of what we do in mentoring people. So to me, I see it more as something that we're doing in behalf of our employees, but also will benefit our employees, and they'll come to understand that.
And do they have to pay for these classes? Do they
Well,
get reimbursed? I mean,
Well, they have that opportunity, and so most of this will be either a voluntary, hey, come, you know, there won't be any charges, or obviously they still have their tuition reimbursement that we will restructure a lot of these classes under.
do you have a question?
I do. So we're talking about tuition reimbursement, so are they receiving credit? So they are receiving credit, and it's going to lead to a certificate, or is it going to lead to a degree?
It could be a la carte classes, and so we're not looking at developing anything outside or that's unusual. What we're looking at is making these opportunities for ASU classes, Grand Canyon community classes, any of the universities that we actually partner with. We just want to help them advertise it more and give our employees more opportunity to know what's out there in the industry. And so, but they would still have their normal tuition reimbursement and the benefits afforded to them through the City of Phoenix. We'll also have a dialogue with ASPOST to get training or to get these topics certified by ASPOST, so when our officers do attend, they actually get continuing education credits for our participation. And so there's a lot of different moving parts of this. We're just in the process of finishing the IGA. And so part of it is ASU, part of it is our law enforcement industry from a statewide basis too. But Phoenix will be taking front and center in the leadership role in developing this. Part of the other ongoing dialogue we had is a lot of times we'll send our future leaders to command colleges, FBI National College, Southern Police Institute, Northwest Police Institute. The dialogue that we're continuing is, why can't Phoenix be the Southwest regional focus for a command college? And so instead of sending our employees elsewhere, we're looking at, is there an opportunity for us to develop that relationship and that Southwest regional leadership in the state of Arizona? So that'll be some of the continuing dialogue.
So I'm just going to talk about the world one of the worlds I live in. In order for us to, in education world, in order for us to move up the ranks or position ourselves well, is that, you know, you go and get your bachelor's and then you go and get your master's. And in the master's world, there's different ways of going. And so one in particular that was created was educational leadership, because then you want to go on to get your PhD, but some people don't necessarily want to get a PhD, so they get the ED equivalent to a PhD, but you haven't done all the research. So depending on where you want to teach, if you want to go to the university, you go that way, and if you go to community college or anywhere else, it's you can go the other way. So is this kind of that vision of wanting to have a command degree certificate, so that then what happens is then everybody starts going and saying, okay, I'm going to do this versus this one, so that I can have an opportunity then to, when I'm competing, I'm able to have this degree or certificate. That's what I'm thinking.
You mean specific to the command college? Or
I'm just thinking if you're looking at succession and you're looking at grooming officers to take higher ranking positions, that this is one way that they would start participating as in a certificate or in a program, so that then they would know, okay, if I have this, I can compete, I understand the whole system, versus someone else that chose not to do it. And
it can be one of three aspects. You know, we're also looking at not just the promotional opportunities. We just want to make a better employee. Really, that's what it is. It's exposing our employees to where if they want to be a detective for 30 years, we want them to be the best subject matter detective. But somewhere along that career, if they decide, hey, I want to promote to sergeant or lieutenant or somewhere else in the organization, we've laid that foundation of knowledge and experience and relationships where they can have that opportunity. And so it's not just on promotion. And so when we talk about known attrition or talent acceleration, we're also looking at, hey, we will always need somebody to answer 911 calls. We will always need somebody to do domestic violence or investigative follow-up. And so it's really that three-pronged approach that Chief Garcia laid out. So, which is job satisfaction, job enrichment, or promotions.
right. And I get it. I'm just curious of how it's going to happen within the world of
I understand what
in the
you're saying.
police world, because I'm very much familiar in the education world how it happens. And you know, you have your job enrichment, say in a detective area, and there are so many courses that you take, or leadership pieces that you take, or mentorship, and then because they just want to be schooled and up to date on their professional development. And then you have those that are ambitious and want to move up.
Right.
And so what's the next level that they take? They've taken that. Now I want more knowledge, really. Some, like if they're like me, I'm curious and I just like knowledge and I just like to know things. And so that's great to see that this is happening, because to me this is all about professional development, leadership, enhancement of who they are and what they do, and gives value to them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone on the phone have a question?
I have a question. Chief, I just really want to thank you for your leadership, because what you're doing here is you're getting the full potential for all of our men and women that are police officers, and also showing them that you care about themselves as individuals too, and improving their lives and their leadership skills too. So I just want to thank you for providing this for our men and women in uniform. And I think this Arizona Center for Police Leadership is really going to help the city of Phoenix in a whole. When you go to groups and you're talking in front of groups, block watches, neighborhood patrols, and all that, those skills are really needed to really bring people together. So I just want to thank you once again for this program. I think it's a big benefit for the whole city and all the men and women that work for the police force.
Thank you, sir.
No questions for me.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for the presentation. We look forward to hearing in the future how it's developed, the attendance and the reception from the officers.
Thank you.
And I hope you are talking to the officers on what they think would benefit them most.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you. We will go to the state and federal legislation. I think, Chief, you're probably here, and
Ma'am.
Tom's bringing the whole crew.
I guess so.
Good morning, Chair, members of the subcommittee. Joining me today are John Gonzalez, who will be talking about our proposed state program, and James Orlowski, who will be talking about our proposed federal program. Chief Garcia is staying with us up here since a number of the items relate to areas under the police department. I'm before you today with a new process. So we heard last year that the mayor and council wanted us to reach out to subcommittees and receive a little bit more input before we come to your policy session. So we've broken up our state and federal agenda to follow some of the subcommittee processes where we will come and present, take your input, pull it together into a document that we would bring to the policy session, but meet with each of you individually before that time to recap what was discussed in each of the subcommittees, and also see if there's other ideas that perhaps if you didn't serve on a certain subcommittee, you might have in relation to that item. So we want to make sure to get full input from all of you.
Should fire be up here?
We will have fire and emergency management available if there are any specific questions about their agenda items, but we have the room full of experts today.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
When government relations works to develop the state and federal agenda, we reach out to each of the city departments during the summer months to get input on if there's any processes that need to be improved upon, if there's a conflict in state law that needs to be addressed, or something new that needs to be added to state law or to our federal agenda. After that time, we now come to the subcommittee to receive input. We'll meet with each of you, and then we look to come to your policy meeting in December for some final action and direction on that. The state agenda items we are asking to proactively pursue are included in our reports. And another thing that we've done a little bit different is we've included proposed legislative language. I know that was something that some of the council members have asked for in the past, that they found it difficult to conceptualize what we were asking to change the state law to. So we've worked with our law department to put proposed language in for discussion purposes. And if council gives us direction to move forward, we would take that to find a bill sponsor and then work with legislative council to make sure that it's appropriate for the state legislative process. With that, I'd like to turn it over to John Gonzalez and James Orlowski to talk about our proposed public safety items. I will mention, though, that under the state process, we always have guiding principles, and those are protecting our shared revenues, opposing any unfunded mandates, and preserving our local authority. And that's always been a guiding principle of the City Council as we go forward to work with the state legislature. With the federal government, we have two principles, and those are to promote fiscal sustainability and protect our local authority. Again, a common theme throughout that we like to have local control, that you as the elected decision makers for our community make those decisions and we don't have those mandates put on us. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to John Gonzalez to talk about our proposed item for the state agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, council members. Before I get into the state agenda, just give you a brief update on the outcomes of the elections. There were some votes still being counted as of this weekend on certain races, and as of now, it appears that the Senate, state Senate, has a 17-13 split with the Republicans holding on to that chamber, and the House is now 38-22, so the Republicans have picked up some seats in the House of Representatives. There were some leadership votes that took place last week, and to no surprise, Senator Andy Biggs retains the presidency in the Senate. David Gowan has been named as the Speaker of the House, replacing outgoing Andy Tobin. And in the Democratic caucuses, Katie Hobbs secured the Senate Democratic leadership position, and Eric Meyer was nominated and is now the new minority leader in the House. So we have two Phoenix people in leadership positions in the legislature. That being the update, get into the state agenda item. Chief Garcia has been talking with government relations for quite some time on different issues, and on one of the issues that we're bringing today for your input is the public maintenance ordinance. This is something that actually has been discussed at the legislature in the past, and there are, and this is dealing with how do we handle those individuals that are impaired in public, whether through drugs or through alcohol. How do we deal through that? Several years ago, the legislature tried introducing different bills to try to provide a holistic way to deal with this issue, but they were unsuccessful, and a lot of those folks have moved on to other things. One of the things that, in talking with Chief Garcia and looking at how potentially we can go forward, since the state legislature currently preempts local governments in having a lot of say and input in this area, one of the things in collaboration with the police department is potentially creating a state legislative ad hoc committee. And that ad hoc committee, which would include Chief Garcia, would have several members of law enforcement from throughout the state, as well as people from the behavioral health communities and maybe homelessness communities and other stakeholders that touch this issue. And hopefully next session, we could have a study committee at the legislature look at all the different things that have been attempted in Arizona. What are other states doing? Is it a resource issue? What can local governments do? And after the end of that ad hoc committee, there could be some legislation the following year. There could be maybe some practices, best practices that we've come up with throughout that process. So the one item, state item that's before you is just informing you of the potential, the request of pursuing a state legislative ad hoc committee to look at this issue, come up with answers, come up with potential responses to this issue at the local level.
And council members, if I may just add, a number of the proposals you hear today, including this one, I consider them sustainability, policing, and homeland security investments for our city. This one is really based on public order maintenance issues. The issue of the state of Arizona not having a public intoxication law really does hamper law enforcement, and it does affect our crime stats. And now you add the potential of a state that may, and I hope not, but may introduce marijuana as an open venue for our state. Again, the public intoxication issue will be huge. And that's what you're seeing in various cities that have adopted that philosophy and passed that law. But again, I think this is a benefit for our city to also impact crime in various categories in relation to people that are intoxicated and are causing criminal offenses.
Okay. Right now, you can, if they're driving, they're covered, right?
This is not a driving issue. It's strictly a public.
This is the ones that are
Walking
out in
down the
front of the
street.
business, walking down the
Correct.
street,
In open
harassing
venues.
someone in a shopping center.
Correct.
Et cetera, and you have no means right now to do anything.
There is
that
no
what you're
public
saying?
intoxication law in the state of Arizona. Yes, ma'am.
I want to clarify that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
With that, if there's no questions from the chair and the committee, I'll have James Orlowski talk about those items that we're looking for direction on in our federal agenda. And I know your time is limited, so I think we'll move through quickly and be available for questions.
I do have some questions.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had,
We can't hear you. We lost?
I had questions
Okay.
about, we are working on some work related to sex offenders and graffiti and funding for the state mental hospital. So we don't need to go in lengthy discussion here, but I hope those will be part of our final agenda.
Madam Chair, subcommittee members, with the item of sex offender legislation, there is going to be an item coming back to this subcommittee, I think at a future agenda date. There is some research being done with the probations department and the courts, looking at what the nature is when it comes to clustering and what impacts we might have in addressing that. When it comes to the state mental hospital and police incidents around that, I know that we'll be meeting with your office, with the police department to talk about that and see if there is a need for legislation to address some of those challenges. With graffiti, that item will actually be coming to the neighborhood subcommittee since Neighborhood Services has been the lead on the graffiti task force.
Okay, so her.
Wonderful, thank you. And I did want to thank you so much for including flood control as a priority. That was wonderful to see on the emergency management side.
Any other questions?
Yes, Chairman. The intoxication, public intoxication. Chief, I was wondering if you have a chance to maybe make the rounds once again to all of my colleagues. There were some concerns that individuals have raised with the sports and coming out of a Suns game, a Diamondback game, and some rights being violated. So I just wanted to maybe touch bases with you, and you can kind of explain it to me so I can explain it to those individuals that have some concerns.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that with all the council members and mayor.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed on the federal.
Thanks, Madam Chair and council members. I'm going to take us through the federal agenda, but before I get into the substance of that, I just wanted to sort of give you an overview of the state of play in DC following the elections. In the Senate, Republicans currently control 52 seats, Democrats roughly 44, plus there are 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. Just for comparison's sake, during the current Congress, which is the 113th, there were 53 Democrats and 45 Republicans in addition to the 2 independents, so that power dynamic has now shifted. Just wanted to note the exact margin of control won't be known until December 6th because there is a runoff election in Louisiana. And then as of the latest check, the Senate race in Alaska was also still pending, so some of those numbers could change slightly. On the House side, the balance of power so far is Republicans control 244 seats versus 184 for Democrats. And the note on that is there are 7 races that are still undecided at the last check. By comparison, in the current Congress, Republicans control 233 seats and Democrats 199. So there's about 16 days, legislative working days in this current Congress, and they do have some work to finish wrapping up. That includes the budget. So the current continuing resolution expires on December 11th. And so Congress can either extend that CR or they can pass an omnibus appropriations bill or some combination of the two. So that work is still before the Congress when they come back in session. Moving on to the federal agenda, like Tom mentioned, today we have the legislative agenda for public safety, so that includes police, fire, and homeland security federal priorities. So in the first category, talking about public safety grants and programs, that includes our fire department grants, so that includes staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, or SAFER, also our Assistance to Firefighters Grant and Urban Search and Rescue, or USAR. These grants provide direct funding from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to local fire departments. And in FY 14-15, the fire department was awarded over $12 million in grants, so it is a substantial amount of aid from the federal government. And staff recommends certainly continuing to apply for grant funding and as well as advocacy to ensure that those grants continue to be fully funded or expanded so that we can maintain that level of fire service when it comes to the fire department. Moving on to police department grants, this includes the Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS grant, as well as Burn JAG and the Gang Resistance Education and Training, or GREAT grant. And just wanted to call out, of course, the city, as you know, received a COPS hiring grant in the amount of $1.875 million in FY13, which enabled us to hire 15 police officers. And with regards to police department grants, staff again recommends that the city continue to advocate for public safety grants, which provide direct support and resources to assist crime fighting and prevention efforts in the city. Moving on to Homeland Security and Emergency Management, some of the key priorities in that area are, again, Homeland Security grants are a focus, and that includes the Urban Area Security Initiative, or UASI, also the State Homeland Security Grant Program, or SHUSHGAP, and then the third priority in terms of public safety grants on the emergency management side is reinstating funding for the Metropolitan Medical Response System is also a key priority. So staff recommends support for ensuring that the region's Homeland Security funding does continue, which again is a big help to local government. Second is under emergency management, as Councilwoman Gallego alluded to, the flood protection and damage recovery. And as the council knows, on November 5th, the administration did take action and approve the governor's request for a major disaster declaration, which makes federal disaster aid available for communities that were affected by the flooding event in September of this year. And so there are certain funding and grant opportunities that the region and the city will be able to pursue as a result of that designation. And so staff recommends support for applications and recommendations to obtain hazard mitigation and pre-disaster funding as part of flood protection and property damage recovery efforts. And then finally, the Emergency Operations Center. The OC, as we saw during the monsoon events, is vital to the city being able to respond to natural, human-caused, or terrorist events. And so staff recommends seeking support for funding to enhance or expand the EOC training and preparedness programs. And then finally, the final component of our recommendations for public safety are some police technology enhancements, essentially projects that the police department is interested in pursuing. And so by virtue of approving those, we would be able during the course of the year to look for grant and funding opportunities to implement some of those goals, which include expanding the department's on-body camera program, developing the department's digital evidence collection and analysis capabilities, acquiring portable drug testing devices, and also purchasing computer software to expand DNA search capabilities. So throughout the year, we would be looking for funding opportunities for those.
And Councilman, if I might just add, on those policing requests that we're seeking to fund, that's all part of what I call smart policing. You know, the fact is, you know, we have to do a better job of using technology to allow us to progress further in fighting crime. And these issues that we're talking about certainly enhance that capability, including the issue of public trust with our community with the body cameras.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, or additions?
I have some comments.
Okay, proceed.
You know, some of the comments that I have is that how do you use us, subcommittee, as council members or as the mayor, Greg Stanton, when it comes to hearing some of these grants, talking to the Arizona delegation at a federal level? We have some colleagues very close to different congressmen, different senators, and how to strategically plan on meeting and actually implementing these grants, also at the state level and at the county level. So I'd like to see some type of strategic plan where if any of my colleagues, or even if our mayor, how to use them effectively to secure some of these grants. Because sometimes thinking that but then we can actually be putting our foot in our mouth, right? So I do it in a strategic way. And how do we do that?
Chair, members of the subcommittee, I'm happy to work with each of your offices to make sure that we understand fully all of the relationships that you have, and that we can work closer with you to make sure when there's grant opportunities or state issues that the city is taking a position on, that we come to you and use the resource of your relationships to make sure that the city is putting its best foot forward.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you so much. We'll be coming back to each of your offices to talk about what we've heard at subcommittee and also get further input for you, so there's still time to provide us more feedback. So thank you for hearing us today.
Thank you very much. I believe we have another item on our agenda, do we know? All the budget. So
Members of
who's
the
coming up to do this? Oh, you're going to take the lead? Thank you.
Members of the subcommittee, last month we did our initial presentation on budget reporting for fire, police, and the courts. We did get some direction from the subcommittee as for modifications as to how we make the presentation, and so we've incorporated that into the presentation that you're going to see today.
Thank you. Who's taking the lead? I guess you are.
Apparently police is. We have made changes based on your recommendations from the last subcommittee meeting, and I'll go through those. The first one is just our budget for the year. We have $563 million total budget. And then you wanted to see a month-to-month comparison from last fiscal year to this year. So, and we put in the variance of the increase or decrease for each month. For July, we had a 4% increase. August, we had a 5% decrease, and September, a 7%, with a cumulative increase of 2% for our total budget. Here are our top 10 expenditures. Again, we're putting up salaries because they make up about 92% of our budget. Overtime, holiday pay, sick leave payout, vacation leave payout, our auto and property insurance, equipment management charges, hardware and software maintenance, and then our jail services. One-time expenditures that we had that hit basically in July was the clothing allowance for $2.77 million, and then various insurance premiums we have to pay of $1.2 million. And the last one is the revenues we've collected July through September, comparing it to last fiscal year. Our SRO program that we have in the schools and special events is one of our bigger ones. False alarms, pawn shop, vehicle impound program, all of our IGAs and task force that we have, our grants programs, and then our court awards amounts that we receive. And that is it. If there's any questions?
Back to that last slide, if you would. What's 2015 versus 2014?
It's basically fiscal year 13-14, and then 14-15.
Okay, so you're changing your year from,
No. It's last fiscal year compared to this fiscal year.
okay. Can you tell me why the alarms are so different?
Why the alarms?
Yeah.
The false alarms, there's not that much difference in between the two. 784,000 compared to 798,000.
I'm just surprised.
It's just based on the permits and inspections that we do.
I just figured there'd be, every year you'd probably be receiving more requests for permits, that people continue to put those in, and I was hoping to see a growth, although not large, but a growth in that area all the time. Just surprised me.
Are you required in the false alarms permit, are you required to register with the city?
Yes, you're supposed to register.
So how do we know when a house gets a new alarm system or a house is getting an alarm system? How do we know then from there that that person will register? Or do we get a list from the fire alarm companies indicating that we did these following false alarms or alarms systems within the home?
It comes from, a lot of that comes from, at least for them not getting it initially, comes from when we get that first call on alarm, and we would realize that it's not permitted. That's usually our first opportunity to tell somebody, well, you're in violation, you need to register.
Okay, so then we don't have internally a system or somehow to create a system so that then we get that information.
And I may be wrong in the fact that whether or not we have an agreement with these security companies to do a permit. I'm not sure. Jill, do you know?
No, I don't know right now, but I can get that information to you.
Because I always thought we did.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because at one point I was part of the Department of Insurance, and in the insurance industry, if a client chooses not to renew their insurance, the companies have to send a alert to DMV to say these following customers do not have insurance, and then DMV then suspends their license or however. So somehow I think we probably should look into that.
Yeah.
We do have, I've been told that our vendors, alarm companies, are supposed to provide people who get new alarms with an application to send in. But again, I think we still need some more follow-up on that to make sure whether they're compliant to that.
But that doesn't mean they send you the names.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am,
So
that's what I'm saying.
that you could
Or the
send the
city.
letter out.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like
Right.
to close the loop on that.
Yeah, I think
It's a good
that's
question.
something we need to pursue and see if we couldn't amend that a little to our advantage. Fire? You're on the hot seat now.
We're next. Chairman, council members, our budget for the fiscal year 2014-15 is $300,482,303. Of that, we're pretty much on target. We've spent 24.80% of the budget through this part of the year. So comparing to last year, again, we're pretty close on target. In July, we were 1.82% variance. August was 1.31. September was a little higher, was 8.9, and then with a grand total of 3.8% variance compared to last year. So the top 10 expenditures was similar to police department. Most of ours, again, is 90% is salaries, is 34 million, 312 and 314, which is about 11.42% of the total budget. And then in decreasing order was pensions, group health insurance, constant staffing, which we talked about last time. That's overtime to staff our 425 people that come to work on the trucks every day. Equipment management charges that we collaborate with Public Works. Medical services, which pays, and that's a one-time pay at the first of the year. That's a contract for our medical director and our health center. Part-time rescues, which is staffs the other portion of our rescues that are peak time. Medical and dental supplies, which those are the supplies that we use on the ambulances to treat the patients, and then electricity. One-time yearly costs, I mentioned medical services, that comes out in July. That pays for both of those, both, again, the medical control doctor as well as our health center. And then constant staffing. Constant staffing was an anomaly to us just because it's up at this point of the year. What we attribute it mostly to is the recent retirements that we saw in July. So until we get another class, which there is a recruit class in right now, we'll probably continue to see that running a little bit high. And then revenues, as compared to last year, the largest portion of our revenue comes from the ambulance transportation system. Compared to last year, we're down just slightly. And that has a lot to do with the changes in the access healthcare percentage that we're allowed to charge. It was at 69.5%. It just recently went to 75, so we're collecting more now, but it was down for this year. And then the dispatch fees that we charge the other cities, as well as the maintenance for the dispatch system in the other cities, as compared. And I think that was it. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay, we'll go to the court.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. If we go to the first page for the court, as we discussed last time, the court's full budget this fiscal year is approximately $29 million. Year to date, for those first 3 months, we've spent $7.3 million of that. And if we look at the next page, it will give you a little bit of a breakdown on where those have come in the 3 months of this year as compared to year-over-year expenses last year. And you can see that we're running at what really is a significant variance under what we spent last year. Realize this is a variance from last year's expenses and not necessarily a direct variance from this year's budget, but we are in fact also under this year's budget by about a little over 3%. If we look at the next page, it'll tell you what our top 10 expenditures are, very similar to police and fire, overwhelmingly personnel costs between the salaries, the group health, the pension contributions, productivity enhancement, the retiree health insurance. Two of the things that you see in there, I think, are things that we mentioned last time that really count as sort of the one-time-in-a-year anomalies for us rather than spread out over the year. And those are things like the contractual services that represent data entry costs that we have for the police department tickets that are still written by hand. We contract out to have that data entry done into our computer system. And again, one of those things that we are hopeful we won't see too much of in the near future. And then with the contractual transportation, again, these are expenses for having jurors that get paid for their mileage to come back and forth to municipal court, where I understand that Councilman Nowakowski is today. The next page, these are what I just spoke about. These are the anomalies, the data entry and the contractual transportation. And then the last page, we've got municipal court revenues year to date, again, as compared to last year. And one thing I do need to say about this is that this represents actual general fund revenues collected. That does not represent the totality of what we collect, because I think, as you're aware, over half of what we collect passes through us back to the state. So that is money that is collected in the form of surcharges that are placed by the state on a mandatory basis on top of fines. We've put that to the side here so that you can look at what actually comes back to the city's general fund. Fines and forfeitures, by far the largest category. Miscellaneous funds, you can see there, this is something that we receive roughly every year from the Arizona Supreme Court for our participation in their FAIR program, which stands for Fine and Restitution Enforcement Program. It is one of the things that actually not only produces some general fund revenue for us each year, but actually saves us a lot of money, in that our full participation in that program allows people to pay their civil traffic tickets and other things online through a portal that's run by the Supreme Court itself, and it saves us an awful lot in banking fees. And then the final category there is services. That's how they're categorized in the budget itself. But this represents several different fees that we collect, one of them being reimbursement for jail costs that are assessed against those individuals who are ordered to spend time in jail and who can afford to pay for that time. As you can see, year over year, our revenues are down approximately 8 to 10%. For us, that is directly tied to the number of cases that are filed in the municipal court by other agencies, including both police and the city prosecutor's office. And we have seen, as compared to last year, a decline in those numbers roughly commensurate with what we see in the decline in revenues.
Is that time of year or just, how do you account for that, I guess is my question, the number of cases declining?
Well, I can't, only because all of those cases that come into the court are a function of other agencies bringing them in. I can tell you that it's not just Phoenix, and I can tell you that it's nothing new. The last 4 or 5 years have seen declining numbers of filings in courts across the state of Arizona. Last year it remained relatively stable as compared to the 4 years before that. This year it's down somewhat again.
So I take it that's because crime is down? Chief?
Well, I would
that what
defer
you're
to
gonna
others.
Right, Councilman
You're
Thurman?
not filing as many cases in court. Is that because crime is down?
I would say so, yes, ma'am. We're down almost 7% overall.
So do you have any figures on if fewer cases are being filed, what's the caseload per judge?
I don't have those with me. I can tell you that they have, it's a little different than what it used to be. But part of what's happened is that the largest drop in filings have come in things like civil traffic tickets, which are also the largest generator, if you will, of civil traffic ticket money and revenues. But those are cases that require much less in terms of resources to actually adjudicate than do the criminal cases. The criminal cases are certainly down somewhat over the last 4 to 5 years. And we can certainly put together some numbers and provide those to the subcommittee.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a couple questions.
No.
Under the revenue, under police, if you can go to that slide really quick. I just want, why do you think we have such an increase from last year in this category?
In court?
Under police revenue.
Well, for court awards, for instance, based on our fund balance is how much money we get for court awards and how much we request from them. Right now, we're funding a lot of the RMS project with court awards, so we're kind of finalizing that for this year. Grants and IGAs, it just varies every year of what we receive, when we're able to get reimbursement for it, so that's the reason for those variances. And then our SROs, we can't actually get reimbursement till we have signed IGAs from the schools, and we've been pushing that each year to get them signed quicker so we can start receiving our funds. So that's why there's an increase there.
Increase is good.
Yes.
Under the court, Could you explain what the services are provided under the revenue section?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr. Nowakowski. It's kind of a catch-all category and includes several different things, one of which represents jail cost reimbursement for those individuals who have jail costs assessed against them. Another one of the items that's of the significant items in that category represents the default fee. So, for example, if someone has written a civil traffic ticket and they fail to appear at the court for their arraignment, and they don't otherwise take care of it, as we offer them the opportunity to do, there's a $45 fee that's assessed against that person. So those end up in that services category, and we use that name, although it's kind of misleading, only because that's the way they're listed in the actual budgetary documents. Services, I agree, does sound like an interesting name for those.
Well, I just really want to thank Milton and all the staff for putting all the details together and really listening to the concerns that we had and making this report full. Also, if there's a way for us to get the report prior to the subcommittee meeting so we can actually go over it. And I noticed that wasn't in our package, and being off-site, it's kind of hard to follow the presentation, right?
Milton, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, we can, now that we sort of got our template down and we know what we're going to be reporting, we can hopefully get that out sooner in the future. The other thing that I wanted to comment on this morning, we now have a quarter's worth of data to look at relative to the Public Safety Department. And even if we were looking at the other departments beyond public safety, the picture would be the same. And so it's an opportunity to reaffirm for the members of the subcommittee and the council as well as the public. We do not have a budget problem because departments are spending more than is authorized. That's not where our issue is. The issue is on the revenue side, where initially there may be an estimate we're going to take in $100 million, and then a few months in we get revised numbers and it says less than that. That's where the problem is. It is not with the spending that's been authorized by the council. If a department goes over, if you want to divide their budget up into 1/12, if they went over in a given month, we would still correct that within the course of the fiscal year so that by the end they would be in line. We're happy to be transparent with this, but it is important for the public to understand departments are not spending more than they've been given authority to do.
Good point. Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Comments? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you changing your methodology so that we have a good picture. I believe we are now to future agenda items. Councilman Nowakowski, did you want to add anything?
I'd like to add a review of our past public safety grants, and can they give us a full report what they thought went wrong and why we weren't granted that grant? The second thing would be if we can look into ways of increasing our police force. If we can start thinking outside the box by looking at other revenues within the city of Phoenix or within the police department, where we can actually figure out a way of hiring more officers and creating a revenue stream to do so too.
Members of the subcommittee, relative to the first point, I believe that Intergovernment Relations has received some feedback from the feds regarding why we didn't get the COPS grant, and I'm sure Mr. Remus can make available whatever feedback he's received. We can certainly do a report that shows the grants that we have received and sort of what we're going to go after. And then with regards to what it would take to increase police hiring, we can prepare a report that shows how much it would cost. options as to where that would come from would be, of course, up to you all.
Okay, I would like to know how much an officer costs
Okay,
initially. And
okay.
what it takes
All right.
to bring someone in. That gives us a better idea of where we could go looking for money, I think, as council members. And on the grants, I'm glad Councilman Nowakowski asked for that. We always see where you're applying for them.
Yes.
Do we keep a running log of applied, received, denied, whatever?
Yes, we do have that
Do we have a
information.
copy of that periodically so that we know what's going on with some of these grants?
Yes.
Any other future items? Okay, I hear none. We are adjourned.
Thank you so much.